Hello everyone. In this brief video, I want to at least provide some context and maybe even some reasoning for why I've structured the course in the way that I have. So to start, I'd like to address a particular problem that I've seen with students in my previous classes over the last couple of years. I feel like a lot of students have been kind of leaning on me to kind of tell the stories that we are reading in class. So kind of they're leaning on me a little too much instead of actually reading the assignments or reading the text and trying to grapple with understanding them themselves. And so in order to kind of combat that, what I have done in this class is I have tried to encourage students to actually read the material. Now, that does not mean I expect students to completely understand everything that I'm giving them. I totally get that you may not understand the text the first time you read it or even the second time, that it takes time to actually work through these texts. But I at least need you to attempt to read them. So I don't expect complete understanding. That's where um, I will help to come in to try to help provide context or to try and maybe rephrase sentences so that way they come out a little bit more clearly. But that is something I can do to help. If you don't even read the material, then essentially I'm providing you with all of those answers. So it does help if you actually read the material and if you come to me with questions about, say, for example, specific lines. So make sure that you actually do try to read the material that's assigned in the reading assignments folders. Now, as far as this course, or at least my approach to literature, one of the things that I'm really trying to help students do within this class is to help strengthen their critical thinking skills. I want you to be more active consumers of text or of media rather than passive consumers of media. And to be active means to actively engage in how a piece of media is constructed. That can be a poem, that can be a song, that can be a film, or even a TV series. All of those things are constructed. People make choices in constructing those materials and delivering the messages that they do. And I want students to become more active in engaging with that media rather than just kind of passively accepting them. Also, I do think, at least in my approach to literature, that literature does help in the way that it can help provide us with the tools to communicate even our own emotions or even own ideas. We borrow so often from other media sources without even realizing it. The language that we use to talk to, say, for example, our friends, our romantic partners, our family members, other peers, that we communicate with, or even people that we see as being bosses or employers. We kind of borrow from the media that we consume that kind of language that we use or things that we observe. And so when we actively study something like literature, you can start learning the skills to kind of create the language that is more unique to you, and you can maybe even start communicating your own ideas more clearly. So, for instance, when we focus on things like the metaphors or the comparisons that an author uses, we're starting to look at definition. And in fact, comparison is often the way that we communicate our ideas to other people. We often have to create a comparison so that way the other person understands our meaning. So when you're writing or even when you're speaking, pay attention to how often you have to compare things. Um, in order to get somebody to understand what it is that you're attempting to say. And when you're doing that, you're actually already using the very things that we're going to be studying in this class to that other artists have done. And so the next thing that I also want us to focus on is I want us to take a look at what the literature of a specific time period reveals about the culture in which it was created. What are the writers responding to? What is their work doing in response to that culture? And what is it doing to us when we read it? Literature is meant to be read, it's meant to be consumed. And so it's effective or it's useful for us to kind of think about what it is it's actually doing and what it's revealing about the past. And so by studying the literature of the past, we can have a better understanding of the media and the literature that we encounter today on through the music that we listen to the television shows that we watch, to the films that we watch, to the books that we read. Um, Understanding or analyzing the literature of the past can help us better understand the literature of the present, and we can actually see what it is that it's doing for good or for bad. And so, next, I want to focus a little bit on analysis because this is something I think a lot of students really struggle with. So, analysis can quickly be defined as breaking something down into its individual parts and understanding how those parts work together to create the whole. Right? It's kind of like breaking down essentially like an engine and figuring out how that engine works. How does it propel a car, a vehicle to move forward? Right? We're doing pretty much the same thing in literature. We're taking it apart by studying the word choices that an author uses, the metaphors, the figurative language that they employ within their text, and we're trying to figure out how it works to create an overall meaning within that text. And so, when we develop meaning, I would like for you to focus on placing that literature in historical context. Try to avoid projecting your own beliefs onto what those texts are accomplishing. So, for example, in some of the work that we look at, we may encounter very different views on religion, specifically Christianity. And so, there's a massive difference between how people from the past, Christians from the past, would have understood their own religion to how Christians may have understood it today. So, try not to project too much of your own beliefs onto the past. We've got to try and make sure that we do kind of situate these texts within the historical time period in which they were created. Um, Now, that doesn't mean that current personal beliefs can inform or create some very interesting perspectives, but we are trying to learn about the past in this class. We're trying to put ourselves into, uh, so to speak, the shoes of these artists or these writers from the past. And so, that being said, I don't want us to be limited on to authorial intention. Although a great artist will have an incredible amount of control over the meaning of their work, they don't have a monopoly on all possible meanings. So, take for example, J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter series. Even though it's very clear that she has a very specific argument that she's trying to create throughout the entire series, that doesn't mean that other meanings are now completely invalid, even if they contradict what it is that she intended. So I want us to think about like as many potential meanings that we have, but I don't want us to be um, basically focused in on or limited by only focusing in authorial intention. So those are just some of the key ideas that I want y'all to kind of think about as we continue on through this class. And as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to provide any answers if I can, or to at least provide you some resources to help you find those answers. All right. Hope you have a great day.